You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Groundhog Day. Nick Alberga Jay Rosehill, the Monday edition of Leafs Morning Take, the first edition of Leafs Morning Take, post first round exit. How we feeling, Rosie?
Annoyed. Not sad, but just like, fuck, I wish we were still in the playoffs, man. Like, what the hell? Groundhog Day is right.
It's just the same old shit. A lot to uncover from Game 7 in Boston. Just demons again. We're going to get to that story. Pretty much acting as a full post-mortem today. We're going to have Frank Saravalli on at some point this week to break down what's next for this franchise. But yeah, it's a hollow feeling. It really, really is, considering where this team was like even 5 days ago. And it's like it's all over and we have to start this journey again next year.
I know, kind of. Just, I don't know. I'm kind of hung up on the last 3 games and how they played, like how the supporting cast played. Like, you got, the Domies and the Nyes and their back end and Joseph Wall. Like, ooh, like, I don't know. I've said a couple times that they're close and people have jumped on me a little bit for it, but like, to play that style against the Bruins, like if you play that style from the get-go and you make some tweaks, and in tweaks I mean, maybe a different look on the bench, different motivating factor back there, different accountability factor, different culture. You take Mitch Marner's salary and even maybe get something in return for him and go shopping for some different pieces. I mean, you can't expect your power play to be 1 for 21 ever again, even though this is not the first time they've dried up offensively in the playoffs. But the things they had that were good and the changes that they can make, like not easily, but that you think they're going to make, holy shit, if they play like that those last 3 games, it could be special, man. It could be right there, and I do believe they are right there with some pretty serious tweaks that they will make, I assume. There's reason. It's not like a 5-year rebuild is my point. It's not like, oh my God, that was their last shot, we're losing everybody and that was it. That's not the case.
I wouldn't say it's a rebuild, but I think this is the furthest the Maple Leafs have been away from a Stanley Cup in the Matthews era. I just
what?
I do. I just think they're a team that's looking for an identity. They don't know what they are, who's going to lead them. It just, I will say, I think the difference this year, and I like it, is like, it seems like everybody's holding them accountable. Where if you recall last year, Rosie, it was like, okay, let's try to get them next year. We're going to run it back. You get the sense like change is coming, which I feel positive about.
Yeah, I think that's the one kind of, shining thing, is that there's no hiding anymore. The problems are somewhat clear, and the changes are, at a point in time where it'll finally happen. And I don't agree that they're that far away. Those 3 games, man, like I've never seen the Leafs play like that. Like, not even in like a dominant regular season game where it was just like, I don't know, you're running out of words to describe it, but just that they're just tenacious on the puck, working their nuts off, like just always in position. Like, they played so good those last 3 games. I really believe that. And no, you didn't get the Matthews big goal or the Marner big goal. Willie stepped up when you needed him to. You can't really fault him for that, considering he wasn't really feeling his best and missed the first 3 games due to injury and stuff going on with his head and his vision and his migraines. That's no fun, but he stepped up and did it when he needed to. Mitch didn't. Johnny really didn't. The one game there, Austin did, but he's also dealing with, I don't know what, some phantom crazy injury we don't know about. But like, I just feel like the way they played those last 3 games was the attitude we've been looking for like years, and I've never seen it, man. I know they can go light a team up and be really good, but it's never been like that. Holy shit, you can hang with anybody if you have that. The attitude that they had is what I really liked, and I think that's what they've always been looking for. And I think they found something looking around going, holy shit, that's what it looks like. Now you got to unload the guys that aren't willing to play that way, because it's not an easy way to play. It doesn't just happen. It takes a huge buy-in and a huge commitment that you got guys like these McCabe's and Domies and Nyes are willing to buy in, and you get rid of the pieces that aren't. Bring in a coach that demands you play like that, which is a culture change. This is what it looks like all the time. Anything less is unacceptable. End of story. Then everyone has to buy in, and then holy shit, you make a few moves, and all of a sudden, I think they're a team that can actually do the things that are needed. And that's why I say they were close there. I mean, they started halfway through the series and we're the better team. And so to me, it shows that it's possible to play the way you're supposed to. And I'm not hoping or guessing anymore like I was in the past. I'm like, no, that's the formula right there. You have it. Just fix the fucking couple problems here and there, and you're off to the races.
Yeah, it just seems like the same old Jekyll and Hyde. Like it's I don't know. The sample size was too small. I get what you're saying though. I think they played with a lot of buy-in, but my wonder leaving that series, where was it for game 4 when your season effectively was on the line? You're down 2-1 in the series and you no-showed. So we've seen too many of those efforts, and maybe it's a coaching thing. Bottom line, today's a big day, obviously, with locker room cleanout day. We're going to hear from Sheldon Keefe, which I think is fascinating. We're going to hear from some of the players. I thought it was really, really intriguing from over the weekend as well that Morgan Rielly and Mitch Marner did not talk to the media following the Game 7 loss in Boston. Read into that, if you may, and maybe they're just waiting to get their thoughts out. But I think if you're part of leadership, I think you should step up and have that conversation. I give Matthews credit, obviously. Give Tavares credit, give Nylander credit. But there's a lot to unpack, and you can feel winds of change certainly in this market when it comes to what's next for this franchise, what's next for the organization. What's up with Brendan Shanahan? What's up with Sheldon Keefe? Is Craig Berube a guy that they have earmarked to take this job if something happens here to Sheldon Keefe? There's so many moving parts, not to mention winds of change when it comes to trades and Mitch Marner being a year away from UFA. Like, there's just so many moving parts to this thing. But as we proceed on the show, I have to ask you to keep it light. You let me know on the weekend that you had your 20-year high school reunion, Rosie. What was that like? Did anybody have any clue who the hell you were?
Yeah, we all know each other. It's 100 people graduated with us.
Okay.
It went pretty much from kindergarten to grade 12. So we all knew each other. But I remember when my dad went to his 20-year reunion, and I was like, Jesus, that's like, you're old as sin. And now I'm there and I don't feel that old. But my God, it was kind of depressing to think of, like, it's been that long. But, it happened on the Leafs game and they went to overtime, and I had to do post-game show. So I wasn't really in the mood for it, and I showed up late, but it was what it was. Makes you feel a little old, and I wasn't really thrilled about it, but good to see some people.
Hey, it's okay, buddy. That's great to hear that you had a good time. It's unfortunate because I could see you coming in guns a-blazing after a Maple Leafs Game 7 victory and lighting that party on fire. It's that would have been worth the 20-year reunion in itself to see Rosie fired up, but we just didn't get it. Another Game 7 loss here, the Boston Bruins. What's going on, everybody? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button at the Leafs Nation 401. Here on YouTube, if you want to chime in with your comments on Game 7, on the season, what you want to see next with this team, pipe up in the chat. Feel free to do that. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Visit the LeafsNation.com for the very latest on what should be a very, very intriguing offseason that begins right now for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The opening segment is brought to you by Greta Bar YYZ. For a good time, find Greta, which I did last night. Regretta Sundays. My goodness, it was tremendous stuff. 590 King Street West. Weekly specials, live sports, over 60-plus arcade games. Let the games begin. Go big. Go to Greta Bar YYZ. So another Game 7, Rosie. You know what hurt the most? Finding out the stat that the Leafs have led in 3 of the 4 Game 7s against Boston since 2013. Like, just think about that. Like, I don't know about you. I was starting to feel it a bit. Nylander scores that goal. And you know what happened after that? The old Leafs past showed up in that game, where it's like they stopped playing the game that brought them success to that point. Because I don't know if you would agree with this. For the first 50 minutes or so of that hockey game, they played a perfect Game 7 on the road. They were well on their way to victory. And then for some reason, it just went aloof.
Yeah, I agree. They scored that goal, and then kind of it's the first time in those 3 games that the old Leafs kind of showed up where they were tentative and no one was jumping and they didn't have any confidence and they were watching and boom, they scored it right back. And then, the rest of the game and including overtime, they just didn't have the poise. They didn't have control of the puck. They didn't have, that thing that I'm talking about um, that I'm excited about is that playoff hockey, like just dog on a bone, chasing it down, like emptying the tank every shift, just like the way Matthew Nye has played the whole, last 3 games of the series. Um, that's how everyone was playing. And then as soon as they got that bounce back goal scored against them after Willie's goal to tie the game at 1, they were like, I was like, come on, like you can see it, right? They're gliding and they're watching and they're waiting. And fuck, does that ever not get the job done? So yeah, they kind of, again, they stumbled and couldn't be clutch, couldn't close the door, couldn't finish the job. I mean, I just thought, hey, get this one goal, get to the second round. I know who's waiting, but the way they were playing, and if all of a sudden a whole new breath of fresh air with a new series, get something going offensively, like let that levy break and just see what could happen. I think it was right there. But once again, too little, too late. You started the series too late. You found your game too late. Your scoring didn't even come whatsoever. It's just pathetic when you look at the numbers on just how little of a percentage of scoring and power play success you would have needed to win that series. And you had it so abysmally small that like under 5% on the power play, like is that even a number? I don't even know I don't even know how to put that in my mind of like, what does that mean? Under 5% with this group, like if you were like, oh, we're only running at like 14%, it's like, oh, that's like 4%. Like, what are you talking about? It's hard to do that with uh with a grindy old veteran, washed up team that squeaks in, let alone with this offensive firepower, 50 million, whatever the hell it is, in 4 players. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that burnt them. They could have just any inkling of offense, especially on the power play, would have got the job done. You were 1 shot away, and you literally came up 1 shot shy with those numbers on the power play. It's flat out shocking.
To me, it's like the irony because you look at the Leafs in the Matthews era, what are they known for? Their offense, their power
Oh
play.
shit.
And year after year, there's this misconception. I don't know how many shows I guested on prior to the playoffs, and people asked me about the goaltending and defense. I said, you're missing the story, man. It's all about the offense this time of year for the Maple Leafs. Weirdly enough, again, because this team in the regular season, they score with the best teams in the league. Their power play is one of the best in the league. For some reason, year after year after year, it gets to the postseason. They can't score on the power play, 1 for 21. They can't score anytime. They had 12 goals in 7 games, Rosie. Like, think about that. It makes absolutely no sense. And then it just gets back to the conversation of how you pay those 4 guys that much money when nobody can really score in the playoffs. I give Nylander credit. I think he stepped up everything he was dealing with. Matthews gets a point. I mean, the conversation is going to be there for the next couple months for sure. But I wanted to ask you, too, are people being too critical of the OT winner when it comes to the nonchalantness, if you will, of Samsonov, of Nylander, of Marner? I'm sure you've seen the tapes over the last couple of days regarding that goal.
Yeah, I mean, Mitch is standing there watching, right? Pasta loops up and has tons of speed. It's not necessarily like his man, but he had no awareness or wherewithal to like hold him up or get in his lane or do anything of value, which is, just not the first shift that's been the case. Riley, yeah, he's deep in the zone and he's totally flat-footed. So was he caught puck watching? Was he trying to be a little bit too safe and got caught with too big of a gap? Was he gassed at the time? I'm not sure, but he didn't do anything to stop it. I mean, he flew in there. And then on Samsonov, like, that's a set play where you can bounce it off, a certain angle of the corner. And I mean, guys do it on, the dump in sometimes right off the back half wall and have it pop right out. That was a little, a different angle, and it's obvious that it was, an intentional attempt to do that. But I don't really get the whole Samsonov thing. Like, that was out of his crease. Like, if he were to come out and play that puck, he would have had to clearly leave his crease and like skate several strides out. And then what does he do? Take it on his backhand, pass to flying down. Like, imagine he came out to play that puck, gets it on like what? He's going to bat it with his backhand, I'm guessing. And then Pasta's coming, guns blazing right down on him. He, like, very good chance that's bobbled, or Pasta recovers it somehow and then buries it on an empty net. The city would still be on fire. That guy wouldn't be able to, like, not a chance in hell. It's way better percentage play and safer and smarter and the right play to stay in your net. And it's like, like, it all happens so fast. He doesn't know his defenseman Riley is staying there flat footed, getting completely roasted. I do not subscribe to the fact that Samsonov should have came out and played that puck. It just screams disaster. And I mean, I can't think of a worse way to lose a series than for a goalie to go out and try one of those plays. So I don't agree with that. But there's, yeah, of course, on a goal, there's breakdowns, and you got to tip your hat to the play that they made and the finish the Pasta had. But yeah, you every time there's a goal that's scored, you can look at the breakdown and the players that led to it, and lo and behold, it's the guys that are were absolutely no shows in the entire series.
So the one thing I would say on the goaltending front, and this pertains clearly to Samsonov, I think that the one thing that separates like good goalies to like great goalies is getting that save. Because if you do recall, Jeremy Swayman was incredible in that series. But the big things that stand out for me was, I think, the save on Edmondson after the Maple Leafs made it 1-0. You sort of forget that, where they came right back and you're like, shit, are they going to score again and make it 2-0? Made a big time stop there. And then the redirection with like 3 seconds left in regulation to send it to OT. Like, I think it's more the timeliness of the saves. And like, that's my major takeaway from the Samsonov era, if you want to call it that, in Toronto. They could never get that save that leads to that victory. Whereas, like, you even look at Joseph Woll prior to that, made a couple of those saves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Joseph Woll made the big saves that got the wins in game 5 and 6. And yeah, you absolutely need that. You could flip it the other way and say, he held them, to one goal. He held them to one goal. Like Maple Leafs, you need to score more than one goal. If your goalie only lets in one goal in 60 minutes, you win 3-1, you're patting him on the head and saying what an incredible job you did, Samsonov. And he did play amazing throughout the entire game, and he kept us in there. And it was a disaster to have him, thinking he was done and then get thrown in there with a phantom injury from Woll. And he played damn good. Did he make that one extra big save to get a shutout? No, but like, was that the expectations? You have to get a shutout for us to win because we're only scoring one goal. Like, that's not the story to me. I thought he played fantastic. Yes, he could have made the one extra save to get a shutout in game 7. Are those realistic expectations for anybody? Shesterkin or Ottinger or Hellebuck or any, like, no, that's not a realistic expectation. And you can't lay it on him saying, well, you weren't good enough because you didn't get a shutout in great game 7. He fucking stopped a lot of pucks, played really well, huge saves at huge times, where if those went in, you would say, yeah, those weren't, you needed the save there to keep him in the game. They weren't in the game in game 7 because, he let in 2 or 3 and should have only let in 1. Like, no, he didn't get a shutout and completely win the game in game 7, but it's not fair to say you didn't do that because Austin Matthews didn't have a hat trick. Like, it's just not the expectations you can lay on a guy. And yeah, Woll kept him into 5 and 6 and was a huge reason they won those games. But you scored one goal in game 7, one, and it's abysmal offense. Like, and that's the problem to me. Like, if it was just as simple as our D and our goalies aren't good enough, and that's why we keep losing in the playoffs, because these guys can't score 6 goals every single game. They're not scoring any goals. And it's like, if that's your problem and this is how your team is built, like, holy shit, what do you want to go more heavy offense? Do you want to sign more $10 million guys? Like, holy smokes, man. It's just a major problem. And that's like the conundrum of like, well, how do you fix it? And the only way to fix it is to kind of go deeper and go with the culture and whatnot of the coaching staff and get rid of the guys that aren't willing to go the extra mile to get those goals. That's all you can do. And it's just shocking that their offense is that dry when they have the team built the way that it is.
Yeah, I think that's a fair analysis. Like the two big stories for me will be the fact that Toronto scored 12 goals in 7 games and that Boston's power play outscored Toronto 6-1. Like that's your story right there in the series. And the other thing, I just it's difficult still coming to grips with whatever happened with Joseph Wall. Like, is it not the most Leafs thing ever? And they haven't said with clarity yet that he got hurt trying to stop a goal that meant nothing with a millisecond left. Like it's so like Leafs, it is so Leafy that he plays the game of his life and a goal in the grand scheme of things that doesn't matter. They're going to game 7. And that's presumably where he got hurt. And I'm right there with you. It was just so deflating. And I think Samsonov deserves a lot of credit. He was really, really good and really, really steady in game 7. But it was so deflating. It was so Leafy for that to happen to Joseph Wall the way he was playing.
Yeah, it's just I took a little 40-minute nap there and tried to get myself calm before the game, and I woke up to this news of Wool might not play, and I thought it was I was like, this seems like an April Fool's-y type of joke, and I don't like how. What do you mean he was? And it had to be on that play because there's nothing else that happened. Like he was fine, and then all of a sudden he can't play game 7. It had to be on that. Like you say, it's the last second of the game. Yeah, Leafy, just you know what, Toronto, you got a chance here. Let's just make sure that it's just gonna be just a millimeter short. Let's just here's what we're gonna throw this wrench into the gears here, just to make sure that you're just that close, but we're just no cigar, and we're gonna make sure of it by this friggin' insane probability of your goalie that just stood up and is becoming a star is going to get hurt with 0.1 seconds left and nobody even knows it, and you're going to find out an hour before the goddamn game 7. Like, give me a break, man. It just never frickin' ends.
Why couldn't it be like Jeremy Swayman couldn't play? But maybe that's a bad example because they have Linus Allmark. But yeah, it never seems to be in favor of the Maple Leafs, and it's just wild to play that what if game. And you probably can't even play it in game 7 because I think you hit the nail on the head. This team couldn't score. Again, the same old conversations. Want to get your take on the officiating as well. For the most part, they stayed out of it, but there's obviously a couple things you can grab, namely the Matthew Knies semi breakaway. But what'd you think of the officiating in game 7?
It's the refs never screwed us, and the refs also never handed us anything as it should be. I hate it when there's two narratives. One, we got absolutely screwed, and then the other side going, the Leafs get every opportunity in the world. And one side is the NHL never wants the Leafs to win. They clearly want a Boston, Florida second round, and then the other team is like, they want nothing more than to hand them a cup there. It's like, shut up. It's how could it be both? Like, it's neither nor. But that Matthew Knies penalty, you can't find a dumber call than he reaches and the shaft of his stick is just kind of parallel to his hip and then goes to the ice and the fucking arm goes up for hooking. Like, it's pathetic, that call. And that's not the only one. But you just made that call on that guy and put him to the box for that in a game 7 of the playoffs in the National Hockey League is absolutely pathetic. Okay, things happen. You kill that penalty, send him on a breakaway right after. And yeah, he got puck first, but absolutely hauls him down in the process and piles him into the net. Like, so that little placing your stick on his, how is the first one a penalty and the second one isn't on the same guy 2 minutes apart from each other with the same? It's just fucking what? Like, how? And that's been kind of a theme throughout the series and throughout the playoffs is inconsistency in the calls. Like, what's a freaking penalty? What is a hook? Like, this isn't 2005 where we're going back to obstruction, where we're trying to open the game up. It's the playoffs where you got to play hard. You got to hold on to the puck. The skilled players are able to do it. You got to use your body to protect it. If the shaft of a guy's stick lays across like your hip and has absolutely no bearing in the result of the play or the puck or the possession, why does your hand go up? Like, they all need to sit down and say, listen, what's the objective here in the playoffs? It should be, you want everyone playing hard. The players figure it out for themselves. It's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. You're allowed to play hard and strong. And when you cross the line with the stick play and with the body contact and with the stuff where it's affecting the play, the guy's play was ruined because of a guy's actions that were against the rules. Simple. But like, just to see a guy reach and nothing comes of it, like, fucking don't put your hand up. You're not helping anyone. You're not helping the league. You're not helping scoring. You're not helping intensity. You're not helping the teams. You're not helping the fans. You're not helping yourself. Like, just don't call that odd. What the hell was that? Like, just call it consistently. Just consistently. Here's the line. When you cross it, it's fairly obvious. My hand's going up. Some of the ones I just can't. And I'm not saying it's for the one against Domi was kind of like you just gave him a push on the back when he pulled up. Like, don't call that. And nothing to do with the Leafs or anything, just in general, the inconsistency of what the hell was that? Like, power plays are just a momentum killer in the playoffs. Let them play 5-on-5. Let the juices go. Let the intensity just bring to a boil. And let's see that incredible hockey that everybody loves.
Yeah, the inconsistency is what got me. And then the other thing too, like when Nyes got hauled down, it looked like the ref pointed the center for a penalty shot. Like, I just don't know. It's weird,
I
right?
thought it was going. What was he? I think was he going the faceoffs right there? Like, what the
I
hell
think
was he
so.
pointing at? I was like, is that a penalty shot, man? They used to do the big X over the head. Now it's pointing up to center. I thought he was going to the penalty shot. I was like, this is the most insane thing ever. And it was nothing. Just odd, man. Just another layer of shit that, you could look back to. And we take so much heat online, our fans, for bitching and moaning about the refs, and I don't think they get it any worse than anybody else, but just the inconsistency of not knowing what the hell the refs are going to call and it being just head scratchers all the time is pretty annoying.
You know what's also annoying is being the brunt of jokes on social media, and that's what's attached to being a Maple Leafs fan. Like, you've been all over social the last couple days. It just eats away at you. Like, for once, can we just be the team that puts it in their face? Like, and I said this going into the series with Boston. I hate the confidence of that city. Like, even to come out in game 7 and look who scores a goal. Like, why could it never be like Austin Matthews scores that goal and the Leafs win the series? Of course it had to be David Pastrnak, who was called out by his head coach after game. Like, of course it had to be.
Yeah, I know it's the way it goes. And to me, like, we had all the momentum going into game 7 in complete control. They were reeling. They were on their heels. They were unconfident. They had no leadership. They were getting out muscled. Every sense of the game was leading towards favoring the Leafs, man. And usually they're the ones going in there, with their teeth chattering, gripping their sticks, going, oh my God, are we going to blow this? And that was Boston for once. And then an hour before the game, the whole fucking table turned, and their star goalie, who they just found, who got them to this point, is hurt after the William Nylander news. He's hurt. The Austin Matthews news. He's hurt. You get over those. You get those guys in, and that goalie that got you here, he's hurt. The guy that no one has confidence in, who lets in a softie every game, he's playing now, and you thought you'd never see him again. Like, and then it's just like this energy shift of Boston going, oh, we're gonna get this, and Leafs Nation going, oh my God. And now all of a sudden we're behind the 8 ball again, and now all of a sudden our confidence has been stripped. Now all of a sudden there's this huge glimmer of extra reason to have hope in Boston, and albeit they friggin' win it. It's just as leafy as it gets, man. An hour before the game, there's it's just, you can't write this shit.
Absolutely sickening. It really is. And like, I don't know if you agree. Like, I like the way Toronto played for 50 minutes. Like, that's what is going to eat away at me all summer, Rosie, is the way the team reacted after scoring the 1-0 goal. And then like the response where they almost made it 2-0. Swayman makes that save. And after that, it reminded me of the Leafs teams from old where they looked scared. They, like, for the first 50 minutes, like, they were sort of taking it blow for blow with Boston and playing the exact game you need to do and play and execute to win in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They were getting the saves. They got the clutch goal. And for some reason, they just stopped playing their game after that. Like I felt like they were chasing after that for the rest of the night.
Yeah, there was a little switch there for sure.
Is it
The
coaching?
it's just a general culture and a general fragility to the team. They're fragile and they don't have enough foundation of playing that style of hockey to trust that it's not their identity yet. And the fact that after game 4, that pathetic game 4 with the effort level and they were just lost, and everyone was pretty pissed, but they responded with not one, not two, but 3 games of serious playoff hockey where it's clearly different. It's visually, you can see everything about it, from the effort level just to the wave on wave of blue jerseys, their body language and just the way they competed. They weren't scared at all. They weren't fragile. They weren't even thinking about anything negative. They were just thinking about, what are we going to continue to do wave on wave to take it to this team? And they did that. And that was inspiring. And it makes me very optimistic that they're capable of doing it. And I think they felt it. They were looking around going, holy shit, this is how it feels. This is what it looks like. And it was led by those Domies and McCabe's and Nyes. It's not the guys you would have thought. And so you're optimistic to say, wow, I think they know what the formula is. That's what it looks like, but they don't have enough of a foundation to lean on that. And they are fragile, and they have some players that just refuse to buy into that style of play, that just think they don't have to or aren't willing to. I don't know what the mindset is of the guys that won't buy into that, but they got to go and just take a, check out at what we get back for certain players, what we can get in free agency. But I do think a new coach would have a different mentality. And when you have a whole 82 game season of demanding and having a level of accountability, all of a sudden it becomes your culture and it becomes your identity of playing a certain way. And I don't think you'll lose it that fast when the going gets tough. And I don't think you'll be as fragile as they have been.
Tell you what, seeing some of the quotes today from Locker Cleanout Day are going to make me sick to my stomach. And I mentioned I was at Greta last night, so that's just going to compound matters to this whole thing. But like John Tavares, the margins are very small and very slim. I just don't need this day. Just do something. Anyways, this segment is brought to you by Douglas, named Canada's best mattress in Canadian living. Douglas is loved by more than 200,000 Canadians. They're backed by over 10,000 five-star reviews. Every mattress order comes with a free comfort sleep bundle, 2 memory foam pillows with pillow protectors, 1 luxurious cotton sheet set, and 1 mattress protector. Order today at douglas.ca/LMT. That's douglas.ca/LMT. Want to get your thoughts on a couple of curious quotes from over the weekend. There was one from Brad Marchand when he was asked by Kyle Bukauskas of Sportsnet how the Bruins managed to do it again to the Leafs in Game 7. Just belief. That's a troll job, right?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, lots of guys say, how did you get over the hump? Oh, we believed in each other. We believed in ourselves. We believed in the process. Just believe. But it's, I don't know. Maybe you think that was on his mind. It was post game. He's still on the ice, right?
Yeah.
I doubt he had time. I don't know. Maybe he had time to throw a dagger. He is that kind of a ratty dagger throwing type of guy. So maybe it was. Even if it wasn't, just hearing it for Leafs fans stung, pissed you off.
It's an understatement. Then you get Matthew Tkachuk getting set to play the Boston Bruins. Game 1's tonight, by the way, if anybody cared. Without this coming out too badly, this is from Matthew Tkachuk. I think we all knew it was probably going to be Boston the way that series was going. What'd you make of that?
Well, if you look at it after game 4, it was pretty obvious. I mean, I didn't think they had a hope in hell of getting it to 7, let alone winning it. Pretty impressive. They came back. So, I mean, I think at that point you could agree. Yeah, they were probably preparing to play Boston mentally after game 4 when they get them down 3-1. And just, I don't know, the history of them not getting it done. He has reason to dislike them. He knows them from the series last year, and he's not scared to be a complete dick out there either. So maybe it was total shade being thrown their way. It doesn't seem like he has a lot of respect for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But that'll make it that much sweeter when the Leafs time comes. And I think they're as close as they've been in a long time. I mean, all they've done is run it back with a proven formula that does not work in the playoffs. So every other year, I don't think it's been reason to hope as much as there is now. At least that's my point of view, man. I think they're going to make some big changes. That makes me hopeful. I think they found something in the last 3 games and understand how it looks and how it needs to be played by some other guys stepping up. That gives me reason to be hopeful. Joseph Woll, while he's injury prone, you could start to say when he's good, he is bloody good and is one of the goalies I think in the league that could give you a chance. And I think that's reason to be hopeful. So, I just got to say that as disappointing as it is, I think there's more positives and reason to be hopeful than there has been in the past. Simple as that. People might argue
What
with that, but
what do you want to see? Well, what needs to happen in your opinion here?
I want them to ask Mitch Marner to waive his no trade clause and say, do you want to change the scenery? Would you like to go somewhere else? You don't seem happy here. You're not trying. You're not doing anything. Like, do you really expect us to extend you with a big raise? Because honestly, if the worst case scenario is we just kind of lose him and just open up his cap room, I would take that. And maybe that's controversial. I don't know, but why in the hell would I want to keep him when it's not like year after year? This isn't a prediction that he's not going to get it done. This isn't a hypothetical, scenario. It's already done. It's already happened. I watched what I watched. You're not winning with him. He doesn't have what it takes to lead the team to win. Maybe you go to different pastures somewhere and you have a different look, and maybe there's a different, team set around him where he can have more success. But he unequivocally was not willing to do anything different to find success, where usually guys go through absolute walls, reinvent their game, do whatever it takes. And he wasn't even willing to dip his toe in the water of playoff hockey. Get rid of him, is my opinion. And if you get something back for him, awesome. But work with work with the cap that he opens up for you, and get some pieces in there. And I think Tree Living, I trust and believe in him that he's the guy to make this team better. Secondly, Sheldon Keefe, you need a new voice in there. I don't have a lot against him or anything like that, but he's not inspiring this team. He's not getting what we need out of them. And a new voice and a new mentality, a new culture, and someone that can hold some accountability to the style of play that needs to be played. You don't just turn it on in the playoffs. Someone like, the guys that were mentioned all the time that will hold them more accountable. I think it was the direction they were going with Mike Babcock, because this group needed it, and that blew up in their face. And they went with their inexperienced guy that was in-house, that was more of a player's coach, and thought that maybe this team could rally under that type of leadership. They came close, but it's more of the same. So those changes right there, that's 2 changes that are big changes. I understand, but it's not that hard to do. I just can't imagine Mitch saying, nope, I won't even exercise the idea. I won't even have the conversation. I'm staying here for another year and I want an extension. I just can't imagine that's the case. But we'll see.
Personally, I think it starts from the top. I think the Shannon plan has ran
Yeah.
its course, if you want to call it that. It's been a decade. It's not working. I would move on from that. Right there with you with Mitch Marner. He makes the most logical sense. It's going to be a difficult conversation. He's a local product, but to your point, the guy looks miserable. Like, when people have just hit their breaking point, like this year,
Yeah.
Marner looked miserable. Like, he didn't have fun playing hockey, and that's concerning. That is really, really concerning. I felt the same way about Sheldon Keefe. I think he's done. And I think if you're asking me right now, I think Craig Berube is going to be the next head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, go back to our interview in January. Go back to the fact that he's been waiting for some reason. There's so many head coaching vacancies out there. And I think everybody connect the dots. You know what's going on here. You know why he's waiting. He's a former Maple Leaf. And the other thing I would do, man, and I don't know if you agree or disagree, I think it's time to give Austin Matthews the captaincy. Like, John Tavares is 1 year away. I think Matthews is everything to this franchise, to this team, his leadership, plays in game 7. I thought he was good at everything, considered. I just think it's like a changing of the guard, and I think that can uplift a room, especially with a new era when you think a new coach is coming in.
Well, I tell you, I wish John Tavares' contract was 1 year shorter, because this would be a whole different conversation that we're having with, 11 million open up there. Maybe you can get Marner gone, and then all of a sudden it's like you have so much, the cap goes up, you have so much to work with. You could really build around what you saw that you liked this year. But I just don't see any benefit that's going to change anything to stripping. Like, that's the story. John Tavares stripped of his captaincy. That's the story. Just to give it to Austin, like, why? What does it accomplish? What's going to change? It's just bringing negativity. Like, then what does John do the rest of the year? Everyone's just like, he was the captain. He couldn't get it done. Now he's just got to limp through this year with his $11 million with no letter. Like, it just doesn't provide anything. Like, Austin Matthews can lead the team just the same, whether that piece of material is on his left shoulder or not. It just only provides a media storm of frenzy. John doesn't really need that. It doesn't really bring anything positive to the table. So no, I'm against that. When John's done his contract, then we can talk about where the sea goes. But stripping him right now to give it to Austin accomplishes nothing but bringing in more negative news.
We got a super chat from Greg McMullen, who sends us $2. Appreciate it. If Mitch Marner won't move, sit him all season. Imagine they did that.
Oh my God. Like, if you look at the playoffs on who is playing well, and look at the games, man, and what Mitch Marner brought to the games. Dude, what was his value?
I'll just say
you look at
he was David Kampf. He was David Kampf.
I look at the valuable players on who I would take out and who I was willing to take out for Mitch Marner, and you're starting to shuffle down to the bottom 3-4 guys on the team is what he was that's his comparables. I don't care, like, you talk about points and people say, oh, he's got a point a game. I pulled up something that said like he's the highest point getter since I don't even know what year, 48 points in 52 games or something like that. No one else is close. Numbers can be deceiving, man. I mean, he got an assist in like game 6 or something, or 5, and it was just like coming up the wall and he just let the puck go to the D-man who shot it in, and that's your assist. Like, that means nothing to me. My fucking kid can do that. I'm talking about like a whole body of work in the playoffs. For him was abysmal, like way more bad than good. And you're a $10+ million player, and you're giving me more bad than good, where you almost want to have the conversation of, would we rather just like not have him in because he's like a detriment? He's not on the same page as anybody else. Why is that? I don't know. Ask Mitch Marner. Why didn't you try harder? Why were you so unwilling to take it to the net? How come every time you got in a position where you were getting, choked off, and you'd have to like use your body to drive to the net and maybe bounce off a D-man or something just to get that thing to the net for a big rebound like John Tavares did in the one game? Why were you so unwilling to do that? Like, ask him. And he'll probably roll his eyes and think everyone's a jerk. And like, fine, you don't like it here. You don't like anyone here. You don't like the scrutiny. You don't like to play hard. You didn't show up in the playoffs. You didn't seem to have like just any amount of desperation. Like, I know I don't have my game right now. I know I'm not scoring, but like, just go crash into someone and just dive for that loose puck and whack it and get in someone's face and scream and yell or do something. No, he just, the only thing he did was throw his gloves on the ground. That's the most emotion he showed the entire series. And it's not good enough. And his comparables are pathetic for a guy of his talent level and his superstardom. He didn't play with any talent, and his superstardom was non-existent. So that's all that matters to me, man. I would love it. It would be so much easier if he was phenomenal and he wasn't a problem, but he is. So we're talking about it. Like, sorry to say, I don't like hating on people. And I don't like ripping star players, but that his performance was pathetic.
3 points, 7 games, 12 shots on goal. You're going to like this quote, by the way. Mitch Marner says it's his goal to be a long-term member of the Leafs. He's eligible to sign an extension on July 1. On another first-round loss, Marner says it's the same shitty pain, to be honest.
Is it? Okay. What did you do? What did you do about it? Either you weren't trying or you're not very good. Like, it's one of the two. And I think he's pretty damn good. But hard work beats talent every time talent doesn't work hard. It's an old saying in hockey.
Pretty good.
And there's lots of guys that are really talented who just didn't achieve greatness because they weren't willing to lay it all on the line. They just wanted their talent to win for them. And that's exactly what it looked like Mitch Marner was doing. Like, I'm really good. I'm going to win. And if I don't, it's not my fault because I'm really talented. So I should be having success. But like what he doesn't really get, I don't know if he's immature or naive or arrogant or what, but like you look at Nathan McKinnon and the way he plays, and you look at, these other players that lead their teams, and it's like, why don't you think you have to do that? Like you didn't even try to do it. You weren't willing. It was clear. You might as well put up your hand and say, guys, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. That's not what I do. So you guys can all do that, but I'm not. And like it wasn't working for him for game 1 and game 2 and game 3 and game 4 and all the way all 7 games. What he was doing did not even remotely work for him, and he wasn't willing to try anything different. Bottom line.
Yeah, it was a definition of insanity. I couldn't agree more. I think when you look at his game, I just don't think it translates well to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And to that point, it doesn't translate well to the money he gets paid when he's a regular season performer. I mean, plain and simple. So he can say all he wants. I think it would be the most idiotic thing if the Leafs even entertain the idea of re-signing this guy. Okay, you want to play out your contract, whatever. As you mentioned, that's worst case scenario. I think it would be the definition of insanity again if they came back with the same guys, and maybe they're going to be forced to if Tavares won't waive. I don't think he's going anywhere. It's got to be Marner. It has to be Marner. I love Nylander. I love him in the playoffs. He's got that dog in him. I couldn't agree more. How often have we been talking about it the last 5 to 7 years in this market about killer instinct? They just don't have it. They do not have the killer instinct. It's puzzling when you watch that OT winner specifically, just how nonchalant everybody was in that sequence, from Morgan Riley to Mitch Marner to William Nylander. There was no urgency. There was absolutely no urgency. And that's the one thing, rest assured, we have seen in the Sheldon Keefe era. There was just really no accountability whenever that happened. Like, it was the same old. Like, we have seen that before. And unfortunately, it happened at the worst time of the season.
I know. It's just like they just played well enough to lose by 1 goal. Like, again, like just and it's like you look at you just look at those offensive numbers again, and it's like anything. Like anything. Like I don't know what the numbers would be on like lack of offense of like records and the worst of all time and the worst in recent history, but the Leafs offense in that series has to be up there. Like you scored an average of like what 2.2 goals per game.
It's embarrassing.
It's crazy. And I mean, if that happened to, I don't know, a different team, like if that happened to, I don't know, the Winnipeg Jets or something like that, and it's like, yeah, well, they couldn't, whatever, but they're the high end octane, super deadly, super vicious, like gotta watch out, always be aware of this super high octane offense. Like they're the big nasty Leafs, and they can put 6 up on you on any night. Like that's what they've invested, and that's what they built it around. So it's just makes no sense that they scored like a shockingly low amount of goals, and even just a below average amount of goals would have won them the series. It's just fucking mind numbing, man.
And for so many reasons, it's Groundhog Day. And by the way, I don't think math is ever your forte. It certainly wasn't mine, but 12 divided by 7 is like 1.7. So it's even less than 2 goals per game, which is just absolutely sickening. Again, I don't want to keep having that same conversation about how this team is always a juggernaut offensively, and then they just can't score when it matters. For the life of me, Rosie, can we just get one player who's in this core come out on locker cleanout day and say, this is unacceptable, we need change? Like some of the quotes, and again, I am always careful to overreact, which I guess I am right now, to this day every year. It's the same shit. We need to be better. Like, dude, you're going to the golf course. You tee off at 3:00. Like, let's be honest here. Can one guy just step up and be like, this is unacceptable, something needs to change here?
I guess. I mean, everyone knows what that change. Like, it's not a secret in the locker room that, you know, Tavares isn't going anywhere. He makes $11 million. He's in the twilight of his thing. He's the captain of the thing. No one's going to necessarily take him. And Matthews is not going anywhere. And Nylander actually showed up and played well most of the season and then showed up when it mattered in the playoffs. So there's just only one guy you can point at, and it's Marner. And if you say that in the locker room, the guy's right beside you. Like, you're going to have lunch together, and there's no benefit for a player to say that. So they just say the same bullshit after, like, we believe, like, it's just so stupid. Like, but I don't know. I would like to have a little bit of candidness. Yes, it would be refreshing to have a little bit of something and not have those, because at this point in the Leafs, tenure of their history, to hear that makes people want to punch holes in the walls. So, like, and John Tavares is just famous for just saying the most mundane, bloody, just token bullshit lines that mean absolutely nothing. And it's because it's just the way he is. I think it's the way he thinks. He's just that rock solid veteran guy, consummate professional that does everything the right way and thinks the right way. And he's just never going to say anything but that mundane shit. But it is mind numbing to hear it. And yeah, you wish someone would tear it up, but in their mind, there's no benefit to doing that.
Somebody in the chat said John Tavares sounds like a funeral director, and that's why I'm laughing right now, because it's so bang on. Like, he's just not going to tell you anything. He's not going to say anything. By the way, Austin Matthews said he got really sick after game 2, played in game 3, then took a weird hit in game 4, so he just couldn't go any further. I guess we're not going to find out what's up, because he didn't want to elaborate. All he said was it was really hard. Thank you to producer Vic for digging up that information. So I guess we're not going to find out what happened to Matthews after all.
Guess not. It's fuck. I would have just. He's gonna take heat for that. That sounds totally weak. Like, I don't know. I was sick, and it was just, and then I got hit, and then it, like, what does getting hit have to do with being sick? And then it was just too hard. It was just really hard. He's gonna take heat for that, but
he should.
I don't know.
Should. I'm sorry. He should.
I guess I don't see why. I just don't. I mean, maybe people can question. I mean, I got buddies, like, I always talk about, the guys around my neck of the woods that just chirp, and they just chirp Nylander, they just chirp Wool, and they chirp Matthews by saying, isn't this the NHL playoffs? Like, this is you're only in game what of the playoffs? Guys battle in game, 5, 6, and 7 of the finals through all the different separated shoulders and stuff. And you're telling me these guys can't go in game, 1 or game 4 of the playoffs of the first round, and then you hear the clip of, like, why, and you think it's going to be some big thing. It's like, well, I was sick, and it's not just a bad look, and he's going to take heat for it. But I think Austin wants to win here, and I think he's capable of battling, and just, I don't know what the hell it is. Sounds like we're not going to find out, but it just the little bit that he did said, I don't think did him any services by the sounds of things.
It's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Will Austin Matthews score 70 goals next season? Bet on it.
No, he won't. You usually follow up a huge one with not as huge of a one, which he did after he scored 60 whatever 2 years ago, and then didn't really follow up last year, and then had a big year this year. He's not getting 70 next year. I don't even want him to get 70 next year. I want him to gel with his teammates. I want him to find chemistry and camaraderie. I want that team to turn into a bloody family. I want them to go through walls for each other. I want them to be coached by a guy that just inspires the hell out of them and makes them realize what potential is in front of them to be absolute legends in the city for the rest of their goddamn lives. And I want them to come together as a unit, as a group, and have an identity that is tailor-made for the playoffs. And I want them to go into the playoffs next year just fucking chomping at the bit for anybody to come and even try them. And I want them to dismantle teams in the future. And I think it's possible. That's what I want them to do.
It absolutely sucks that we have to wait like 365 more days to wait for that 7-game series in the first round. And I just can't wait till the debut edition of season 3 of Leafs Morning Take, where I tell you, Rosie, I couldn't care less about this regular season, but rest assured, I will be making that speech upon the first show of season 3.
Yeah, maybe. And it's tough because it's the way the thing is gone. They've had the regular season success and it's fine, but it's getting old and stale. We don't care anymore. We realize it doesn't mean anything. So we want the postseason success, and they're not able to give us that. And the way they're losing with, we built this super high offense, octane, firepower team, and everyone's like, oh, we don't have a goalie, we don't have defense, but we literally, shut the door defensively and in a goaltender perspective in some ways. And the fault and the flaw and the loss is coming because you didn't score any goals, but that's the way we're built. It doesn't make sense. It's frustrating. I just think that with the changes that are going to be coming, it's exciting to get the season going next year and to see what they look like, see who steps up, see what the actual line combinations will be under a new coach, and if that stays, and if these guys get mainstay chemistry and understanding of each other on a level that they never got a chance to under Keefe, because in my opinion he shuffled the lines up far too much. Can you make a group that is clearly ready for the playoffs, going into the playoffs with far less question marks than they've had in the past, ending the regular season like there has been in all these other years, like so many coin flips and up in the airs and question marks? I want to see a team that doesn't have any of those. You know who they are, they have their identity, and you're like, now let's go see if this is good enough to win and actually feel somewhat solid and confident in what you have.
Fair enough, Rosie. Excellent job today. We're going to continue our postmortem tomorrow. Frank Saravalli is going to drop by of Daily Faceoff. We're going to jump into the whole Sheldon Keefe conversation, Brendan Shanahan, Mitch Marner, Bertuzzi, Domi, some of the extensions, what this team's going to look to do here in the offseason. So excellent job today. This is always the most difficult show because you don't know what to say. I mean, they lost. What is the proper response, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes there's nothing to say. Sometimes you say too much. Yeah, I don't know. It sucks. Like, what do you want to say? We all watched, and of course, it's that much more frustrating because they were so clear shot away. Like if they just lost in game 5, you could have that conversation and it'd be very black and white and clear. But then they come back and show character and grit and have a playoff performance for 3 solid games, but then just come up short enough, like one shot away, one flat-footed defenseman, one missed assignment away, and it's all back where people expected it to be. It just really sucks. It sucks big time. And the worst part is, like we just talked about, we got such a long wait before we contest it again.
Well, luckily, we'll be with you the whole ride, folks. Just a programming note, we're right with you till the off season, okay? So Monday to Friday, we'll continue on here on Leafs Morning Take. Frank Saravalli coming up tomorrow at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Don't forget, we're also available in podcast form. Just search Leafs Morning Take. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. That'd be fantastic. And also make sure to check out the LeafsNation.com. Should plug our socials as well. We don't do that very frequently. Rosie's been on fire on Twitter. If you want to check him out, X, as the cool cats call it, J_D_Rosehill. I'm at the Golden Muzzy. Many thanks to producer Vic, and we'll talk on Tuesday. Take care, everybody. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.